You've been working with us, what, for about
Maybe like a month and a half, 6 weeks, maybe like a success coach, I guess we shall say. And one of the things that I do is I build inevitable success for people. And what I do is I help them understand their unique genius, and then I help them decode that so they can apply it to all of the areas of their life so that they can create momentum and overcome chaos. No, no, that wasn't the case. What was the case is I worked way too much and didn't get paid enough. And
mm,
I was trading my time for an hourly wage, which was basically suffocating my fulfillment from life. Hourly therapy based, and through this process, I've been able to switch to more of a forward focused coaching model, which definitely fits how I see the world. Therapy is great, but it has a tendency to be a little bit more reverse focused, which there was some tension inside of me because I just didn't see the world as aligned that way anymore. For sure. So the biggest breakthrough I think was around like getting a lot of clarity on the messaging, right? Like on being able to, well, so there's two phases of it, right? Like it's getting the language of the messaging, and then it's stepping into the energy of belief of saying the message. Like, so when I first started, it was, I know the words that I'm saying, but I wasn't speaking them from inspiration. I was dancing into a topic and like, hey, that sounds like a great idea, right? And the pivot for me that really finally, and I landed a client recently, was no, I'm speaking from authority and inspiration. Like it got to the point where I couldn't not tell them this. It would have been morally irresponsible for me to not tell them the message at that point in time. So I
mm.
had to. And like, so through the process with you guys, it's been this formulating what the clarity is and then stepping into the identity of that message so that it's kind of the analogy I would use is like at the start I was trying on a coat, and then over time that infused into being my backbone as opposed to a coat that I would take off. Does that make sense? So since I had that breakthrough, the first kind of dip of my toe into the pool was basically taking my hourly rate and making a monthly plan out of it. And so I signed a client or two at like a monthly plan, but it still was limited, right? The biggest breakthrough is I just signed a 6 month a 6 month client at about 3 times my historical hourly rate. So
Nice.
even if I broke down to the hourly, it's way more profitable than it was before. So,
That's
and
awesome.
it's a guaranteed 6 months of income.
So tell us, so all right, how much were you charging an hour when you first started working with us?
I was charging like between 175 and $200 an hour. So,
Straight. And then what did you turn the hour or the monthly into?
so I turned the monthly into like between 5 or 800 based on how many sessions they were going to do that month,
Hmm.
but in a monthly package type of thing.
Nice.
And then obviously then the leap happened.
Yeah.
So,
And then now what did you charge for that 6 months?
okay. So I know that we had talked and I had told you a number, but it actually got even better. So
Good.
I actually got $18,000 contract for those 6 months.
$6,000 contract for those 6 months.
No, 18,000, 3,000 a month.
What?
Yes.
Okay,
How?
so we
How?
didn't know this, right?
What the dude?
Well, it just happened. It just recently happened because it was a 4,000 for 3 months. And then I had another conversation with her and she's like, yeah, that sounds great. And like just the dream started building. And so then I closed at 6 months. So,
Hmm. Hell yeah, dude. That's
so,
freaking
and
awesome.
yeah, it was super cool. And it was really cool because it was in alignment with adding value. Like I wasn't going to ask that until I knew and I believed in my mind that I could create the transformation and I was already giving the value to that person. And
So
so
let
then
me
it
ask
became
you that, like, how
seamless.
did you feel, like, where was that transformation that you felt like you had that added value in what they were getting that you could charge that much?
Well, I think that the one of the keys was I was already working with this client, so it was a pivot. Like it wasn't out of the blue the first time, right?
Yeah.
And so they were already giving me feedback on the incredible value. And then the key for me was they saw the value, and I was like, yeah, that's nice. What about this? And then I was able to cast the vision of that next level, and that's what took it to that next level of the price point. And it really went from like it's almost like a graduation from therapy to like building success, mindset. And so for me to be able to step into casting that next level of vision that they couldn't see yet, Well, that sold the package, because then they were like, oh, that's even possible. And it was about value, not cost at that point in time. Like the money didn't even matter at that point, because they were taken by the vision of what was possible.
Hell yeah. So very cool. And I'm just like, where did that come from? Like that idea or that skill set of being able to cast that vision.
So I think for me, one of my superpowers is that once I get an idea that I believe in, I'll go practice it 1,000 times until I master it.
Yeah.
And so when we would talk about, like, we talked about all this stuff, casting the vision and stepping into the idea, like, and so I would just go basically interject that conversation into everybody I talked to all week long and be like, what felt right, what didn't feel right, like what worked, what didn't work, like, oh, that sounded terrible, get better at that. And just over that repetition, it went from the coat to the backbone, like it infused into who I was. And then the minute it was aligned with how I see the world and how I see myself, it's like, I can't not cast the vision anymore.
Yeah.
And so then in all the conversations, I was still practicing, but everybody was like kind of like, holy shit, that's possible. Like people, like you can do that. And so it just reaffirmed it and reaffirmed it and reaffirmed it, like this re-education of my own mind in the process of practice. Well, I mean, I think that my hesitation was I've tried a bunch of things before. So it was, would this work? Right. Like, and I've been searching for that like platform to like take me next level. And so that was mine, like, was like, do I really trust what they're saying? And do I really trust them? And do I trust myself that if I go with this, will I actually put in the work and follow through to make it work? Because I know for me, whatever I put myself towards and really do will work. And so it was like, was this the right fit? And is this the right time to press the gas pedal? When we went through the conversations that the three of us had, there was an energy alignment between us. Like I could feel the connection, and very intuitive person, like very energy oriented, like, and so there's some of the knowing process that isn't really describable per se, unless you're in that field.
Yeah.
But the logical parts of it were too, is like the way you laid out the platform and the way you laid out what was going to happen over 90 days and then a year, it was like, oh, that makes sense. And like, oh, that makes sense. And like, there wasn't any logical resistance because of the way it was laid out. And you guys did a really good job of understanding the vision I was casting and layering that in with your program.
Yeah.
And so like the vision and the program just merged, where it was like, well, there's not really a reason to say no.
Yeah. Got that. Sweet, dude. So if anybody's on the fence here of like working with us, what would you tell them?
I mean, it works, right? Like, but it works if you work it. You know, and so ask yourself, like, am I really ready to make a difference in my life? Am I really ready to step into that? It's my moral obligation to have the impact on the world that I believe is possible. Get inspired about your own vision, and Chad and Holly will do the rest for you. Like, your job is get inspired and say yes, and then just follow the steps. Like, don't overthink it. Simplicity solves chaos. Like, just follow it. Like Frozen 2, just do the next right thing. Just do the next right thing. But if you're on the fence, ask yourself, am I really inspired enough on my own vision to believe that this makes an impact on the world? If the answer is yes, then you can't say no. Because this works. It works for everybody. Like, they've set it up so that it can't not work unless you don't do the work. Believe in the message. It is possible. You are capable. Take the next step and say yes to yourself. Say yes to the message and impact you can have on the world. It's not about a program. It's about the impact you can have on the world.